Hello, everybody. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we have a very special guest with us. We have Dr. Glen Depke, and he is joining us from Orange County, California. And he is the Dr. Mercola brand educator and also a traditional naturopath. Thank you so much, Dr. Depke, for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Well, wonderful. So you have some wonderful information to share with us tonight.
Yes, I do. On really something to help what everybody really wants is healthy aging, right?
Indeed. We all want to look fabulous and feel our best.
That's right. That's right. And then are you going to give me the ability to do a screen share?
Oh, yep. You are good to go.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, welcome this evening. Bear with me for just a few moments while I get the slideshow up here appropriately for you. And first off, welcome from Marlene's Market and Deli, right? Fabulous place. I do miss being there live doing consumer lectures, and hopefully that will be coming somewhere in the near future. And and really, the big thing with today, as you already know, we're here to really talk about really supplements and some tips for healthy aging. And when I talk about that too, just to be very clear, aging to me as a naturopath is you really want to focus on maintaining optimal brain health and supporting your brain. You want to really support your mitochondria, and I'll get into that a little bit deeper later. You also want to support your cardiovascular health and overall with your really the combination of your gut brain immune connection overall. And those are really key components to making sure that you're aging as gracefully as you can as the years go on, right? Because I'm the type of person, I don't believe in the linear age of what the number is. It's more of it's based on how you feel, based on the level of health that you're enjoying, which is to me a really big key. And I will bring up, before we get going, one thing I want to share in regard to Dr. Mercola's line. And this is something that I think is very important to share that most people don't know about Dr. Mercola, is that every one of our products that are ever sold really support our mission and our advocacy. So 25% of the net proceeds of whatever somebody buys goes to really educating the general public on things like the non-GMO support in the right to know genetically engineering labeling, or anti-fluoridation, or elimination of mercury, and the whole host of levels of education that are listed below. So I want you to know that when you're buying the product, you're not just buying something that's a huge benefit for you and your health, you're buying something that's a huge benefit for our culture, which is really important as well. And before I get into talking about brain health, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about myself as tied into brain health and why this is such an important subject for me. Elizabeth was nice enough to mention, some of my background professionally. So Elizabeth, thank you for that. I don't have to get into that. And for me, from a personal perspective, brain health is extremely important to me because of my family history. You see, my grandmother died when I was just a young boy with severe dementia. My mother spent the last 13 months of her life living in a hospital bed in my parents' living room with my father feeding her baby food and changing her diapers every day. And she had passed with also severe dementia. And in my older brother, he had actually was diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And in his not quite his mid-60s, he also died with a neurological disorder, right? So brain support, I tell people all the time, I very selfishly research brain health because I want to do everything I can to keep this happy and healthy for the rest of my life, right? Yes, I'm 57 and I want to enjoy the same, same ability to comprehend and learn and remember and all of this, well into my 80s, 90s, and maybe even beyond that. And I believe that we can all do that regardless of what our family history or our DNA says. And we have to do the right things to support that. So that's what's really important, because that's what most people aren't doing. And now after today, you're going to have the ability to understand what you can do to support aging and really to support your brain. So let's get into this. I'm going to take these out of here for a little bit so you can see the whole slides. I'll come back to that later. And the first thing when I think about brain health is that there's two key components that your brain, as well as really everywhere else in your body, depends on, and that's both nutrition and oxygen. Right. And we think about this, a lot of people in our culture, they have a difficult time with what I would refer to as peripheral circulation. So pushing all the blood to those smaller capillaries in your body, which is really responsible for about 75% of your entire circulation. And for most people, it most notably affects what we would consider the extremities of their body. As an example, like people who regularly deal with like cold hands and feet on a regular basis, or if you think of what's the other extremity of the body, excuse me, outside of the hands and feet, and that would be the brain, right? And the whole thing is the brain is working against gravity. At least your hands and your feet are working with gravity. And so that's where the organic fermented beets come in. Now, the reason why I bring this up first is because in order to get the nutrition and the oxygen to the brain, you have to be moving the blood to the brain. And the key factor at which I'm sharing the organic beets today is because the organic fermented beets, it actually helps increase your nitric oxide, which can actually help play a very supportive role in normal circulatory functions, dilating the vessels of the arterial system to really help the body achieve that high level of nutrition and oxygen to the brain. And there's other benefits of this as well. It can really help with, there's a lot of people who know about beets for physical fitness, the antioxidant property of it, and so many other factors. But the main factor for this today is tied into really supporting the blood flow to enjoy the highest level of brain health you can. And honestly, this is something that I take every single day. Now, outside of that, once you're getting the blood to the brain, you want to make sure you're getting the right nutrients to the brain. And before we get into that, I want to describe a little technology that's very important to understand, because it's not just about having the best ingredients. It's also about having the best delivery system and also the optimal level of support for the integrity of what's inside the capsule that you're taking. So I want to talk about then what's called the unique Leecap technology. So the Leecap, if you see that picture on the upper right, that's a picture of a Leecap. It's a 2-piece hard shell capsule for liquids. It's a low heat, hermetically sealed, so there's no risk of oxygen entering into where it's sealed. That little bubble you see in there, that is actually a nitrogen bubble to protect the freshness and the integrity of whatever's in the Leecap. And what's really important with this as well is the Leecap really rapidly and completely disintegrates quickly in the digestive tract to allow the nutrients to get into the body much more efficiently. Now, why the Leecap is so important is because of the two pictures underneath the Leecap picture. The picture to the right shows a picture of a soft gel underneath a microscope. Now you'll recognize those little black lines with the white borders around that. Those are microscopic cracks in the soft gel. Yeah, so the problem with that is when you have microscopic cracks in something, eventually oxygen can work its way through that and reach the internal ingredients, which would have a degrading effect on that. And now if we compare that to the picture of the Leecap on the left, the Leecap under the same magnification, what you could recognize here is it's missing something that's key, and that missing something is the cracks. So the Leecap not only is has that added protection, as I mentioned, with the nitrogen bubble and the low heat hermetically sealing and all of the benefits that we were talking about. And you do not have to worry. You can be very confident that you're not going to be exposing the internal ingredients to oxygen. And that's important because of the first ingredient that we're talking about with your brain health, which is your omega-3 fatty acids. You've probably heard the advantage of taking things like fish oil or cod liver oil or something to increase your DHA and EPA. And what you might not have heard, though, is that when you use this in a form of krill rather than fish oil or cod liver oil, there's an added benefit of the absorbability. And it's because krill is naturally bound with something called phospholipids. And what that means is the phospholipids enable the krill to be both water and fat soluble, whereas the typical fish oil or cod is only going to be fat soluble, which is typically the more difficult level from an absorption factor in your body. So when you have that natural occurring phospholipid to create both a fat and a water soluble nutrient, the absorption level is significantly higher. Yeah, and even as an example, if you pulled up in one hand, you pulled up a bottle of fish oil, and then next to that, you pull up a bottle of krill, the fish oil will actually contain more EPA and DHA. That doesn't mean, though, you're going to absorb more. You see, the phospholipids is a significant benefit to actually helping you get more of that into your body. And in this case, we're talking about helping it be support for your brain. And any other thing I like to bring up is that this is also in the krill. The krill is also in the Leecap that we just talked about. So the big deal there is because if it's in a soft gel and if over time it has that potential of exposure to oxygen, if you actually have oxygen that comes in contact with an omega-3, it oxidizes, which is just it's a polite way of saying it's gone rancid or it's spoiled. And then it has a negative implication for your health. And I know that's not what you're looking for. You're looking to support your health, not to have a negative impact. So the Leecap goes a long way in protecting those internal ingredients so they maintain their integrity. And the last thing I like to bring up about krill overall, because I've heard this in different times when I've done education, is that people are concerned that, well, I don't want to use all the krill and then there's no krill left for the whales, for the ocean, right? And I want you to understand that the krill it's under something called an MSC certification, which is the Marine Stewardship Council. It's a boat to plate certification, and it really ensures the harvesting to manufacturing adheres to the certification chain of custody standards. So this way we know that there's going to be krill left for us long-term, not just for people, but also for all of the creatures in the ocean as well. And on top of that, it also ensures us there's no other bycatch. So there's no other species except for krill that are caught at this time. So from an omega-3 standpoint, the krill is a way to go from the absorption perspective, the protection perspective, and also the advantage of the Leecap. Now, krill comes in the regular Antarctic krill oil and also a krill for women. And the difference between the regular and the krill for women is the krill for women also includes some organic evening primrose seed oil, which can have a beneficial supportive factor for the female hormonal system as well. So there's a little double benefit there. And then what I want to get into then on a whole nother level up is what's really the best omega-3s that you can get specifically to support your brain. And to me, that's tied into two different products. And one is excuse me, one is the keto krill, and the other is the herring caviar oil. Now, the keto krill, which I'll talk about first. Now, when you're talking about krill specifically and brain support, the keto krill is always my favorite because not only do you have all the benefits of krill that I just mentioned between the phospholipids, also the Leecap, the absorption level. On top of that, also krill even naturally contains astaxanthin, which is a very powerful antioxidant that also crosses your blood-brain barrier. So all of those benefits are in the krill for women, and the keto krill. And on top of that, the keto krill also has 3 different types of nootropics, which are another benefit for supporting the brain. And there's also added phospholipids and added caprylic 8 MCT oil, all to help support the brain even just that much more. You know, the keto krill is something that I take 2 of these every day, along with what I'm going to talk about next for supporting the brain, which is the herring caviar oil. Now, with this, the herring caviar oil is different from the perspective of, obviously, this is coming from herring caviar. And also, this is in the Leecap as well. And what's important to recognize on why this is so important for the brain is because of its ratio to EPA and DHA. So those 2 components, EPA and DHA, are the most significant components that most people are always talking about with their omega-3 fatty acids. Now, what's special about this is that most other products, such as fish oils or cod liver oils, or as we just talked about, even with krill, they have a much higher level of EPA than they do of DHA. And the thing that's important with this is the DHA component of the omega-3 is the brain food. That's the more supportive factor of the omega-3. And what's awesome about herring caviar oil is it has a 3-to-1 ratio of the EPA and or the DAA and EPA, which is similar to mother's milk. And if you think about why that's so important, is that when you have a newborn who's been breastfeeding and is getting this ratio of this higher level of DHA, that's important because the DHA component is so important for the brain function. And so as we age, and we've got all these other things really on a level, these negative factors tied into our brain health, like the chronic stress or the high levels of toxicity in the world we live in. You know, plus throw in things like food sensitivities and the standard American diet, and the list goes on. We need something to get that higher level of support, and the herring caviar oil is a way to achieve this. Yeah, so for me personally, I take as mentioned, I take the organic fermented beets every day. And I also take 2 of the keto krill and 2 of the herring caviar oil, because I want to do everything that I can to maintain and support the highest level of health for my brain, as I know you do as well. Outside of that, some other factors that are also very important as far as supporting your brain is one, the organic Gingo Biloba. And most people have heard of the benefits of ginkgo for really supporting their brain health and their nervous system and their neurological system. And what's different here is, well, number 1, too, is this is organic. It's an organic ginkgo, and it also contains a coffee fruit extract. And now what's so important about this is, you see, many of us, including myself, we live lives with a lot of stress. And the levels of stress that we have can have a negative impact on how we sleep, even how we think, and even recall names and faces. And no matter if it's really more physical, mental, or emotional stress, it can really challenge our ability to get through the day from a brain perspective, right? And the accumulation of this free radical damage because of these everyday stressors, it really speeds up the aging of cells. And at the same time, it helps us, it really puts our body in a position where we deplete a key protein that supports our brain. So the benefit of the ginkgo, along with the coffee fruit extract, this is a unique formula that contains the 2 of these. And what it does is it really helps the body maintain this crucial protein that I'm mentioning, and also really helping support the health and well-being of your brain cells, your neurons, your brain and your nervous system, even going as far as helping to promote the growth of new neurons and synapses in your neurological system, and a great support for overall cognitive function and memory overall. So, and really can't say enough about the combination of the ginkgo with the coffee fruit extract. And that's a combination that you don't typically see on the market. So that's what makes that so powerful together. And outside of that, another huge benefit for brain health is really tied into magnesium. And you see, magnesium isn't just about the brain. Number one, about 80% of our culture is known to be deficient in magnesium. And that's a big deal because magnesium, depending on whose research you want to listen to, can have 1,000, 1,200 or more chemical processes in the body that are dependent on magnesium. So if you're not getting enough magnesium, there's a significant challenge or potential deficiency in your body. So number one, you want to get magnesium. And number two, you really, from a brain perspective, you want the magnesium L-threonate. You see, and this is so important because the L-threonate form of magnesium is the one form of magnesium that's been shown to have the ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. And this is so important because when you're stressed out, that mental and emotional stress you might feel every day. And the first reaction to stress in your body is in your brain. And if you think of stress, you've probably heard this before, that stress is a sympathetic response in your nervous system, which is that fight or flight response. So that's what's going on in your brain when you're under this mental and emotional stress. And magnesium actually helps to support the parasympathetic activity, which is the rest and digest side of your nervous system. So having that ability to get through past the blood-brain barrier and into the brain is very important. And on top of that, the L-threonate form, not only does it have the characteristic of crossing the blood-brain barrier, but it actually has a higher level of ability to penetrate the cell membrane. So overall absorption is typically at a higher rate than other forms of magnesium, which then takes away a common challenge for people if they start taking higher levels of magnesium, because this form of magnesium typically doesn't create that gastrointestinal discomfort or the loose stool that you might have noticed in the past taking a little bit more magnesium. So this goes a long way in making sure that you're not only maintaining your brain and a healthy aging, you're really helping the body overall because of all the processes that are dependent on magnesium in your body. And another level, this is a very exciting supplement. This is actually how I start every one of my days. And I start every day when I wake up. I fill up a glass of water with about 18 ounces of water, 16 to 18 ounces approximately. And I drop 1 tablet of H2, which is molecular hydrogen, in that bottle of water. Now, H2, which is molecular hydrogen, recognizing that hydrogen is the smallest element known to man, at least at this point. Maybe we'll find something smaller later. But it is the smallest element known to man. And because of this, the hydrogen can get everywhere in the body. It can get into all of the cells. It can get into the organs. It can get into the nucleus of the cells. It can get into the mitochondria. And it gets past the blood-brain barrier into the brain. And the effect that the molecular hydrogen has is a very potent antioxidant. Now, the big difference, though, with this, because you might have seen tablets like this on the market in the past, and those other tablets that you may have seen in the past, they create very low levels, low concentrations of H2, really only like 1 or 2 parts per million, as compared to the H2 that you get from Dr. Mercola, which can produce about up to 8 parts per million of the molecular hydrogen. So you get the benefit of hydrogen plus a higher level of hydrogen for that support for the body and for the brain from an antioxidant perspective. And a little tidbit with this as well is that there's even machines out there that you can purchase that are molecular hydrogen generators, where they actually generate molecular hydrogen. And those machines might cost you maybe about $2,000, $2,500, sometimes more. And they still only create concentrations of 1 to 2 parts per million. So that's why this form of H2 is so powerful. And there are a couple things I want to bring up with this that are important as well. You can see in the slide, if you look on the right where it says supplement facts, it says the serving size is 1 tablet. And I would stick with that, because if you get too much of the molecular hydrogen in your body, you might be, let me just put it this way, you might not be able to make it too far from the restroom for quite some time in that part of the day, because it would have too much of an effect in cleaning out the body. So just stick with the 1 tablet. If you feel like you need an extra help of the antioxidant support to really help with again, supporting the brain and your overall healthy aging, you can take more than one tablet per day, but not together. You could take one tablet in water early in the day and another later in the day. So those are key factors as well. And now outside of that, before we get into the next item, I want to bring up that the next important aspect of aging is your mitochondria. Right? And the next product ties into the same Leecaps that we talked about before. There's another level of importance that I'll bring up shortly. And what I want you to know about mitochondria first is that mitochondria, you've probably heard this as the powerhouse of the cell, the little engine that drives every cell in your body, and all that is true. And your mitochondria is essential for the higher energy needs of your body. So things like your muscular system, your kidneys, your liver, your heart, your brain, and also mitochondria is responsible for about 97% of your body's energy. So when we're talking about healthy aging, we are absolutely talking about healthy mitochondria. Now, the first product, which to me is the most important from a mitochondria perspective, also ties into the Leecap that we talked about earlier, and that is Ubiquinol. You see, most people in the past, when you've talked about mitochondria, you've heard things about really more about the CoQ10, or could also be referred to as ubiquinol. So that's what CoQ10 or coenzyme Q10 is. And the challenge, though, is if you're taking CoQ10, which is fine if you're younger than 30 and you have a relatively healthy digestive system. The problem, though, is that CoQ10 has to be converted into ubiquinol in order for you to enjoy the benefits of that from a mitochondria perspective. So once you reach about 30, 35 years old, the challenge comes in is that it's hard for some people because they lose this intrinsic factor. So it's hard for some people to convert the CoQ10 into ubiquinol. So therefore, their mitochondria is still suffering. And so when you really want to support your mitochondria, ubiquinol is the way to go for those who are older than 30 years old. Now, and here's why this is so important to be in a Leecap as well, showing that picture in the slide just above. And it's because all the quality companies out there that sell ubiquinol, they're typically using the same form of ubiquinol from the same company. It's a company called Kanika. Kanika is not just the best form of ubiquinol that you can get in our country. It's the best form of ubiquinol you can get in our world based on the research I've done. And it's because Kanika has this patented fermentation system. And in my opinion, they just make the best ubiquinol. And this can be, you can get this from other companies, except Dr. Mercola's is the only one that's in the Leecap. And here's why this is so important. You see, even on the Kanika website, it shares that if you expose ubiquinol to oxygen, it can convert back into CoQ10, or ubiquinone is what it's called. So when you're buying ubiquinol, you want it to stay ubiquinol. And the best way to have that level of confidence is to have it in a Leecap. This is the ubiquinol that I take, and it's also ubiquinol that I use for my clients in my office. And the only one that I will use, only because it's not only the Kanika, which is the brand of ubiquinol that I want, but it's also in the Leecap. So we get that, the ability for it to maintain its integrity as ubiquinol. So that's a very important aspect. And then after this, I want to talk a little bit about liposomal technology, because there's a few different products that use liposomal technology in the line. And I want you to really understand in a very simple way what this is all about. And based on the picture you're looking at here, as you're looking at the picture on the right where it says non-liposomal, so that would be a reference of an active ingredient that doesn't have a liposomal attachment trying to get through the cell membrane. You can see there, it seems like it's kind of stuck at the cell membrane, because when you have an active ingredient that's non-liposomal, it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of effort to get through that cell membrane. So some will get through and much of it will not. You see, and the key, though, for all your nutrients is for them to be intracellular, to get into the cell. Now, the big difference, though, is if you actually have a liposome that's attached to that nutrient, which you would find in our liposomal products, what happens then, instead of taking all that time, effort, and energy at the cell membrane, as you can see on the picture on the left, as we're looking at this, that's just the active ingredient going right through the cell membrane, which is what can occur when you have the liposomal technology along with the active ingredient. So that's a very key point. And I bring this up because of the liposomal CoQ10. So for those who are younger than 30 that feel like you have a pretty healthy digestive system, CoQ10 can still work for you, because you'll likely still have that intrinsic factor to convert the CoQ10 into the ubiquinol. And so again, if you're younger than 30 and you feel that you have a pretty healthy digestive system, by all means, you can very confidently use the liposomal CoQ10 rather than the ubiquinol. And if you're older than 30, or if you know you have some significant issues with your digestive system, then I would actually always go with the ubiquinol. Now, outside of that, another way to support your mitochondria is with something called Berberine and MicroPQ. Now, what's interesting here is that the berberine, number one, this from a mitochondria perspective, I liken this, and my analogy is I refer to it as the garbage can for the mitochondria, where the mitochondria can release its garbage, debris, and into that garbage truck per se, to carry that debris away. And when I'm working with clients, I refer to it as cellular acidity, which is, to me, I refer to that as dirty mitochondria. So it's just there to help clean up the mitochondria. And then the micronized PQQ is a highly supportive factor for the mitochondria overall. So on one level, you have something help cleaning the mitochondria and supporting the mitochondria in that way. And on the other factor, you have something that's going to support the overall activity of the mitochondria. So it's a great one-two combination that is very supportive from a mitochondria perspective, and then tied directly into aging. The mitochondria in itself is very important for aging in the healthiest way possible. And on top of that, the mitochondria, when we talk about the berberine and MicroPQ, I remember reading a study some time ago where they looked at a cell underneath a microscope prior to the use of the combination of berberine and MicroPQ and after. And what was interesting is the cell after the use appeared to be a younger looking cell. And I'm like, sign me up for that, right? Anything I could do to have a younger looking cell in my body is always a good thing. And it's that combination of the berberine and MicroPQ that helps us with that level of what we're talking about here with the mitochondria, and really so much more. Because remember, when you talk about the mitochondria, you're also talking about body energy, kidneys, liver, heart, and then also the brain and the muscular system. So those are key points to be had. And I did talk about the liposomal products before, or liposomal technology, so I don't have to go deeper into that. I want to talk about a couple other liposomal products that go a long way in helping support natural and healthy aging. And one of them is vitamin C. And I say this from a vitamin C perspective because ultimately vitamin C plays an important role in, let me pull this out. So I haven't seen anybody in a while. So vitamin C plays an important role as an antioxidant. You see, vitamin C has become very, very important for people nowadays, because, think about this, the level at which people have been focusing on vitamin C is since, like almost the beginning of 2020, because everybody's, really looking to support what's going on overall with their immune system function, right? Because when you support that antioxidant level, you're also supporting your immune system function. And as I'm going to talk about a little bit later as well, overall, when you're talking about your immune system, you see, most people just think of the immune system as, what you're using to whether, like a determining factor as to whether you get sick or not. And obviously your immune system does play a role down that pathway. And the other thing that's really important to recognize is your immune system plays an important role in just general daily maintenance and repair of your body. So you want to make sure that you're maintaining and repairing your body at the highest level possible as tied into supporting healthy aging. And then the other advantage of using the liposomal vitamin C as compared to a different form of vitamin C is the absorbability, right? Because of the liposomal technology, you can have you can support a higher level of absorption, and that's a key factor too, because based on the research that I've looked at in my career, when you look at the overall with vitamin C, the average person can actually absorb and utilize approximately 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C in approximately 2-hour time period. So when people take these higher amounts of vitamin C, it doesn't necessarily mean you're utilizing the whole level of that vitamin C, right? Now with the liposomal, because of the attachment of the vitamin C to the liposomal itself, the advantage there is that now that vitamin C is getting through the cell membrane, is getting into the cell, and the advantage from that is just really tied into you can use the higher amount, and that's what you're looking for. This way you can take more than 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C and still be comfortable and confident that you're using all of it and getting the full benefit that you're really ultimately looking for, which is a really, really key factor as well. All right, now, outside of that, the other product with the liposomal is tied into the liposomal, overall with the liposomal D3, right? The liposomal D3 is very important from supporting that immune system function. You see, now from an immune system perspective, what's so important about this is, as I had mentioned prior, is that it's the D3 is all about just enabling the body to for the immune system to support overall what's going on with the maintenance and support of your body on a regular daily basis. And that's really what we're looking for, right? We're looking for that ability. And that's what you get with the D3, because of the liposomal. And now some people will also say with D3 that, well, what about, don't I need the K2 and these other aspects tied into this? And that's not necessarily the case, because you don't need the K2 and all the other cofactors ultimately. And that is because when you're talking about the liposomal D, with the liposomal attachment, you're going to get that full absorption of the D without the other cofactors. And hands down, when I have clients in my office that are looking to support their vitamin D levels and support their immune system, or if maybe they did a test and they want to get these levels up, I'm always recommending the D3. Now, outside of that, the other factor that's really important is also, now, if you're looking from an aging perspective of aging with a healthy heart and healthy cardiovascular system, now we're talking about the combination of the D3 with the K2. You still have the D3. Now, I will say with this, it's not liposomal, so you don't have that same level of absorbability with the D3 with K2, but you do have the K2. And K2 is really interesting because from a heart perspective, this can actually help support and promote healthy, flexible arteries, overall heart health, as well as even bone health. And what's a key factor with this too is other K2s on the market are actually derived from soy. We're always using the MK7, which is the best absorbable form of K2. And other companies use the MK7 from soy, whereas we use the MK7 from chickpeas. Dr. Mercola is not a fan of soy that's typically used, which is generally going to be potentially GMO, as well as not organic, sprayed with things like glyphosate or other poisons. So we stay away from soy in all of our products, and we use the chickpeas specifically for this. And I want to bring up one other point too, in case you're the label reader, which hopefully you are. It's good to, and I'm very confident in you reading any label on the Dr. Mercola line, that's for sure. And it's good to read the labels to know what are the other ingredients. And you might notice on the bottom right here where it says other ingredients, it also says sucrose in here. And sometimes people will question, well, why did Dr. Mercola put sucrose in his D3 and K2? And there's a very important factor for this, and it's because in order for you to absorb a non-liquid form of D3, you need the sucrose to enhance the absorption. Yeah, so that's why that is in there. So you don't think that there's any kind of a typo on the label or just questioning as to why within there. It's a very important role from an absorption perspective. Now, outside of that, another factor that's really powerful from a heart and cardiovascular perspective as far as support, as well as immune support, is the fermented black garlic. You see, with fermentation, there's a couple of key points I want to bring up for you. Is number one, anything that you ferment, it's going to be supported for its therapeutic value. Number two, anything you ferment, it's also going to be very supportive in regard to its overall ability for you to absorb and assimilate that nutrient. And number three, anything you ferment is also beneficial typically for the gastrointestinal system, right? So it's a combination of those three together. Now when we're talking about that though, what's really amazing with this is what happens when you ferment garlic. It really shows the ability to for this transformation in a food product once you ferment it. You see, because garlic, when it just starts as a whole garlic clove, which is another key point to make. You know, a lot of other fermented garlics that are on the market they're actually fermenting garlic powder. We're actually fermenting a whole garlic clove. It goes through a two-part 40-day fermentation system process, which really gives us the confidence that we're really providing the highest level fermented black garlic available. And then once you ferment it and it becomes black garlic, it's also got a more of a sweet and pleasant flavor rather than that pungent flavor that we typically know garlic to have. And garlic prior to fermentation is very healthy. It actually has a lot of minerals in it. It's got a pretty complex amino acid profile. It's got a key also antioxidant called allicin. And the only problem with allicin, it doesn't last very long in the body, maybe an hour, right? Now, the benefit though is once you ferment it, here's a couple of dynamics that changes. Number one, if you look at the amino acid profile prior to and after fermentation, all of the amino acid levels are higher. And the allicin, which again is a potent antioxidant, but doesn't last very long. But once you actually ferment the garlic, the allicin converts into S-allylcysteine or SAC, which is an even more potent antioxidant that lasts so much longer in the body. So you really get a lot of benefits from that. And really the black garlic, we've always really really promoted this and discussed this in a way of really supporting, you know, blood pressure levels as well as cholesterol levels, and overall supporting cardiovascular health, and also the benefit for immune health as well. And another big one from a perspective in regard to health and aging is the L-carnosine and the R-lipoic acid. You see, now this is such a big deal because there's something in the body, it's referred to as glycation. You see, and glycation though is really an issue for all the people that are eating and consuming higher amounts of carbohydrates. And it's really making the protein in your body what we would refer to as like a little sticky, right? So a sticky protein is something that really creates challenges for aging rather than supporting a healthy and a natural aging process. So especially for people who eat a lot of carbohydrates, which isn't just, you know, which could be a lot of higher glycemic vegetables. That could also include, you know, any flour-based products. Of course, any sugars would tie into that as well. And just to recognize, if you're eating a lot of carbs and you have that glycation going on because of the carbohydrate consumption, the big issue with that is it's going to be a challenge with the glycation. And ultimately, when we look at the L-carnosine with the R-lipoic acid, as we have here, you know, this the L-carnitine, which number one is an amino acid, yet it does have an antioxidant property to it. And then the R-alpha lipoic acid, that also has another high antioxidant rate. And this is really important for anybody who wants to maintain their health as they age. It's very important for people over 55 because of the muscle mass and function begins to decline. And very, very important for vegans and vegetarians who eat very little meat because they're often deficient in the L-carnosine. So really getting that carnosine with the R-alpha lipoic acid is another positive factor for supporting aging, supporting the brain and cognitive health, antioxidants, of course, and mitochondria health as well. And we talked about the krill. And then one other factor that we want to look at with this too is the complete probiotics. And you might think, well, why is this so important? And it's very important because your gut, your brain, and your immune system are all tied in together. You can't think of one without the other. And I just want to bring up one key point. I want to make sure that we have enough time for Q&A at the end as well. So the big factor with the complete probiotic is that first strain of bacteria that you see on the upper right. And it's the DDS1 form of Lactobacillus acidophilus. Now, of course, all of these different forms of bacteria have multiple different benefits for your gastrointestinal system to support not only your GI, but also supporting your brain and your immune system health. And that DDS1 form of Lactobacillus acidophilus, that the benefit here is this is number one, this is the most researched form of beneficial bacteria that has been shown to be resistant to enzymes, to bile, and to stomach acid. Yes, so the possibility that this makes it all the way down into the colon to support the entirety of your GI tract is at the highest level as compared to other probiotics. And most other probiotics that I've ever seen on the market don't contain the DDS1 form of Lactobacillus acidophilus. And a couple of years ago, or maybe even a little bit longer, we put this into a time release capsule or a delayed release capsule. So it opens a little bit later in the digestive tract to even further enhance the ability of your body enjoying the probiotics throughout the entirety of the GI tract. And then lastly, I want to talk about the biodynamic organic fermented cinnamon. And there's some great things about this that I have to mention. Number one, this is not just organic fermented cinnamon. This is biodynamic organic fermented cinnamon. So what this means that this is grown in a certified area that enjoys biodynamic farming, which is regenerative agriculture. It allows the full use of the environment to provide the highest level of nutrient value to the soil, which then provides the highest nutrient value for whatever you're growing in that soil. In this case, the cinnamon. Now, the other key factor with this is that this is a true cinnamon. This is a Ceylon cinnamon. It's not the kind of the fake cinnamon that are known as Chinese cinnamon or cassia cinnamon. And why that's so important is because the cassia cinnamon, that fake or Chinese cinnamon, it can contain undesirable levels of a chemical called coumarin, which is a powerful anticoagulant with also potential carcinogenic and toxic properties. Whereas a Ceylon cinnamon has been shown to contain almost undetectable layers of that, really making the Ceylon cinnamon much safer. And on top of that, you have the advantage that it's biodynamic, it's organic, and it's fermented. And the reason why I brought this up is, because when we're talking about healthy aging, when we're talking about the health of our brain, when we're talking about, just really aging and just focusing on health in the most important way we can, one thing that's very important is to help the body to support carbohydrate metabolism. And the cinnamon has been shown to be really supportive for people from a, supporting what's going on from a blood sugar and an insulin perspective in the body to really maintain that narrow range of blood sugar that your body needs and to really live your life with the lowest level potential of insulin, because that's a key factor in aging in a very healthy and a more of that longevity that everybody's really looking to enjoy. And at this point, then we're going to get into some time for questions, and as well, because I'm going to remove these screens so I can actually be talking to you in person. So before we get into Q&A, I really want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to what I have here in regard to really supporting healthy aging, supporting the brain, the mitochondria, your cardiovascular health, as well as the immune system, and overall with everything we've talked about across the board. So thank you so much for that. And let's get right into the Q&A.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Depke.
You're
Fabulous
welcome.
presentation.
And I think we had a couple of questions in the chat that I can pull up as well.
Yeah.
So did you want to read these, Elizabeth, or do you want me to just go through the chat questions myself?
Oh, you are more than welcome to.
Okay. All right. So one person asked customer questions. They've been taking the Mercola curcumin for a long time. I would love to know the difference between what the differences are between them, as I've never been sure the advanced or the extract. Well, the newest form of curcumin that we released not too long ago, that is a special technology to even take that 95% curcuminoid to a whole nother level of absorption. They're both very positive products, and the new advanced curcumin has a higher absorption level as compared to the other curcumin that we've had on the market for some time. They're both great products. It just depends on your focus on the absorbability of those 95% curcuminoids. And then also the second question here, it's mentioned that it seems like I heard Dr. Mercola say one time that on the weekends he takes a break from his supplements. Is that true? And if so, why? Yeah, I can't say exactly at this point if Dr. Mercola takes a weekend break or not. I will say that for myself personally, I don't take a break from all supplements. Some things that I take all the time, like every day, I'm going to take my probiotic. I'm going to take everything down the brain line for myself. And I say that because of my family history of neurodegeneration, right? I'm not gonna miss a day with that. And when I do travel, though, I will say I simplify. When I travel, some of the supplements that I take, I generally won't take when I travel, but I'll still always have my probiotic. I'll still always have something like a digestive enzyme when I'm eating cooked food, and I'll still have my brain support system with me. And I will take a break from other supplements that I do take. So, yeah, and like I said, I can't say for sure at this time what Dr. Mercola does. I know I've heard of him doing that as well in the past. Elizabeth, thank you for letting me know that we had plenty of time. And Terry says, great information, Glenn. Thank you. You're so welcome, Terry. It's my pleasure for yourself and everybody else on the call. And Elizabeth, are you going to give anybody chances to ask questions live if they choose to as well?
Definitely. Yeah, folks, this is the time to ask live while we got our wonderful expert here. I know we have a few people watching live here on Facebook. Oh, we had a question. I heard magnesium supplements can be hard on kidneys. Is that true?
Well, that's why the L3 form is very important. You want the form that has that high level of absorbability to get into the cells through the cell membrane, and really also through the blood-brain barrier as well. So that's another key factor. And and also Karen had asked, I saw this, Karen asked about why we use ascorbic acid in liposomal C rather than what's considered a natural C. A great question, Karen, and I'm very happy to answer this, because you can't, when you use a natural C that has so many other nutrients in that beside for the C, you can't make it liposomal. It has to be one nutrient. So if it's more than one nutrient, you cannot make it liposomal. Yeah, so we really want to make sure that we're helping people get that highest level of vitamin C in there, and we have to do it from that perspective. And another question here, I believe it's Shay asked, can we take supplements without food? It's best for most supplements to take with food. You can take things like a probiotic away from food. I take the fermented beets on an empty stomach. I had mentioned H2. I take that in the morning. That's the first thing I do. I pour a big glass of water with the H2 tablet. And but when you're taking things like the ubiquinol or the herring caviar oil or any of the keto krills, whether it be the krill for women or the keto krill, you want to take those supplements with food. And then the other advantage of the liposomal nutrients, you don't have to take them with food. You can, and you don't have to. So great question. Yeah, we really just, I love when I get these really fantastic questions. It just shows me the level of health knowledge that you have at your store, Elizabeth. I absolutely love it.
We have some of the best customers for sure.
Yes, you do. I know that from being there live for sure.
I know, and we miss you, and we're just so grateful that we're able to have you on our online platform here. Thanks, Zoom. Yay.
Absolutely. And any last minute questions before we wrap up today? And Shay says, thank you. You're so welcome, Shay. I totally appreciate you being on the Zoom little training here today. And I look forward to, Elizabeth and I were chatting beforehand about doing something early next year. And we've got some new products that are phenomenal in supporting that number one goal that most people have as their New Year's resolution, which is supporting a healthy weight, right? So we'll get into that. That'll be very exciting. I look forward to sharing that with everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We thank each and every one of you. Definitely stay tuned for more of our online classes. Take good care.
Bye, everybody.